Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the live studios here in Radha Lane. And we're getting to be a real little family here. You know, the devotees who come every day, and sometimes there's more and sometimes there's less. But there's a crew of devotees here that are the sterling devotees, the Rasika devotees, the ones who love to hear about Krishna. And I'm in good company, and I'm greatly fortunate to be with them and with you all. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm seeing everybody else. This is fun. All right, everybody. Try it again. You missed it because of technical difficulties. Welcome back to the live studios here at Radha Lane, next to Neelamadhava Temple in ISKCON of Houston. So, you know, the part of the Bhagavatam that we're reading now is actually setting the scene for the actual Bhagavatam to be spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Pariksit. And in that kind of introductory material, we've come now to the point where Maharaj Pariksit has appeared, and now there's going to be more glories of him, and then there's going to be a little biographical outline of him, a little biography of him, and then the incident that caused him to be able to hear the Bhagavatam for the rest of us, for all time. Okay. And sweet glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, called Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mind, all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgu Manistadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin atini chochatakara. The conch shell's blowing to appear. Ha namun chigadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart, pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 No. Okay. Text 20. Chanted by the astrologers. Hare Krishna. We'll wait till the conch shells stop blowing so we can hear properly. This child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered, like the famous King Shibi of the Ushinara country. And he will expand the name and fame of his family like Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushanta. Purport: a king becomes famous by his acts of charity, performance of yajnas, protection of the surrendered, and so on. A Kshatriya king is proud to give protection to the surrendered souls. This attitude of a king is called Ishwara Bhava, or factual power to give protection in a righteous cause. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructs living beings to surrender unto Him, and He promises all protection. The Lord is all powerful and true to His word, and therefore He never fails to give protection to His different devotees. The king, being a representative of the Lord, must possess this attitude of giving protection to Maharaj Shibi, the king of Ushinara, was an intimate friend of Maharaj Yayati, who was able to reach the heavenly planets. Maharaj Shibi was aware of the heavenly planet where he was to be transferred after his death. His heavenly planet 96, 6 through 9. Maharaj Shibi was so charitably disposed that he wanted to give over his acquired position in the heavenly kingdom to Yayati, but he did not accept it. Yayati went to the heavenly planet along with great rishis like Ashtaka and others. On inquiry from the rishis, Yayati gave an account of Shibi's pious acts when all of them were on the path to heaven. He has become a member of the assembly of Yamaraja, who has become his worshipable deity. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, the worshipper of the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, Yanti Deva, Vrtat Devan. So Maharaj Shibi has become an associate of the great Vaishnava authority Yamaraja on that particular planet. While he was on the earth, he became very famous as a protector of surrendered souls and a donor of charities. The king of heaven once took the shape of a pigeon-hunter bird, eagle, and Agni, the fire god, took the shape of a pigeon. The pigeon, while being chased by the eagle, took shelter on the lap of Maharaj Shibi, and the hunter eagle wanted the pigeon back from the king. The king wanted to give it some other meat to eat, and requested the bird not to kill the pigeon. The hunter bird refused to accept the king's offer, but it was settled later on that the king would accept flesh from the body of the king of the pigeon's equivalent weight. The king began to cut flesh from his body to weigh in the balance equivalent to the weight of the pigeon, but the mystic pigeon always remained heavier. The king then put himself on the balance to equate with the pigeon, and the demigods were pleased with him. The king of heaven and the fire god disclosed their identity, and the king was blessed by them. Devarshi Narada also glorified Maharaj Shibi for his great achievements, specifically in charity and protection. Maharaj Shibi sacrificed his own son for the satisfaction of a Brahmana. Shibi never allowed flesh eating in his kingdom by any human being, and thus child Pariksit was to become a second Shibi in charity and protection. Okay, Doshanti Bharata. This is who were glorified as being like Maharaj Pariksit, or like in quality. Dushanti Bharata. There are many Bharatas in history, of which Bharata, the brother of Lord Rama, Bharata, the son of King Rishabha, and Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushanta, are very famous. And all these Bharatas are historically known to the universe. This earth planet is known as Bharata, or Bharata Barsha, due to King Bharata, the son of Rishabha. But according to some, this land is known as Bharata due to the reign of the son of Dushanta. So far as we are convinced, this land's name Bharata Varsha was established from the reign of Bharata, the son of King Rishabha. Before him, the land was known as Ilavrita Varsha. But just after the coronation of Bharata, the son of Rishabha, this land became famous as Bharata Varsha. Currency, and in the some of the major. But despite all this, Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushanta, was not less important. He is the son of the famous beauty Shakuntala. Maharaj Dushanta fell in love with Shakuntala in the forest, and Bharata was conceived. After that, Maharaj forgot his wife Shakuntala, and the child Bharata was brought up in the forest by his mother. Even in his childhood, he was so powerful that he challenged the lions and elephants in the forest and would fight with them as little children play with cats and dogs. Because of the boys becoming so strong, more than the so-called modern Tarzan, the rishis in the forest called him Sarvadamam, or one who is able to control everyone. A full description of Maharaj Bharata is given in the Mahabharata Adi Parva. The Pandavas, or the Kurus, are sometimes addressed as Bharata due to being born in the dynasty of the famous Maharaj Bharata, the son of King Dushanta. Text 21. This child will be as good as the Arjuna, irresistible as fire, and as unsurpassable as the ocean. One is Kartavirya Arjuna, the king of Haihaya, and the other is the grandfather of the child. That means Pariksit. Both the Arjunas are famous for their bowmanship, and the child Pariksit is foretold to be equal to both of them, particularly in fighting. Pandava Arjuna is given below. Pandava Arjuna, the great hero of the Bhagavad Gita. He is the Kshetraja son of Maharaj Pandu. Queen Kunti Devi could call for any one of the demigods, and thus she called Indra, and Arjuna was born by him. Arjuna is therefore a plenary part of the heavenly king, Indra. He was born in the month of Palguna, February, March, and therefore he is also called Palguni. When he appeared as the son of Kunti, his future greatness was proclaimed by air messages, and all the important personalities from different parts of the universe, such as the demigods, the Gandharvas, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Nagas, the different rishis, Apsaras, the society girls of heaven, all attended the ceremony. The Apsaras pleased everyone by their heavenly dances and songs. Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna and the maternal uncle of Arjuna, sent his priest representative, Kashyapa, to purify Arjuna by all the prescribed sanskaras or reformatory processes. His sanskara in the presence of the rishis, residents of Shatashinga. He married 4 wives, Draupadi, Subhadra, Chitrangada, and Ulupi, from whom he got 4 sons of the name Shrutakirti, Abhimanyu, Babruvahana, and Iravan, respectively. During his student life, he was entrusted to study under the great professor Dronacharya, but he excelled everyone by his studious intensity, and Dronacharya was especially attracted by his disciplinary affection. Dronacharya accepted him as a first-grade scholar and loved heartily to bestow upon him all the blessings of military science. He was so ardent even at night, determined to make him the topmost bowman of the world. He passed very brilliantly the examination in piercing the target, and Dronacharya was very pleased. Royal families in Manipur and Tripura are descendants of Arjuna's son, Prabhuvahana. Arjuna saved Dronacharya from the attack of a crocodile, and the Acharya, being pleased with him, rewarded him with a weapon of the name Brahmashira. Maharaj Drupada was inimical toward Dronacharya, and thus, when he attacked the Acharya, Arjuna got him arrested and brought him before Dronacharya. He besieged a city of the name Ahichatra, belonging to Maharaj Drupada, and after taking it over, he gave it to Dronacharya. The confidential treatment of the weapon Brahmashira was explained to Arjuna, and Dronacharya was promised by Arjuna that he would use the weapon, if necessary, when he, Dronacharya, personally became an enemy of Arjuna. By this, the Yajna of Kurukshetra, in which Dronacharya was on the opposite side, Maharaj Drupada, although defeated by Arjuna on behalf of his professor Dronacharya, to his young combatant, but he was disappointed when he heard the false news of Arjuna's death in the fire of a Shalak house, intrigued by Duryodhana. He therefore arranged for Draupadi's personal selection of a groom who could pierce the eye of a fish hanging on the ceiling. This trick was especially made because only Arjuna could do it, and he was successful in his desire to hand over his equally worthy daughter to Arjuna. Arjuna's brothers were at that time living incognito, and Arjuna and his brothers attended the meeting of Draupadi's selection in the dress of brahmanas. When all the Kshatriya kings assembled saw that a poor brahmana had been garlanded by Draupadi for her lord, Sri Krishna disclosed his identity to Balarama. He met Ulupi at Haridwar, and was attracted by that girl who belonged to Nagaloka, and thus Iravan was born. Similarly, he met Chitrangada, a daughter of the king of Manipur, and thus Babruvahana was born. Lord Sri Krishna made a plan to help Arjuna to kidnap Subhadra, sister of Sri Krishna, because Baladeva was inclined to hand her over to Duryodhana. Yudhishthira also agreed with Sri Krishna, and thus Subhadra was taken by force by Arjuna and then married to him. Subhadra's son is Abhimanyu, the father of Pariksit Maharaj, the posthumous child. Arjuna satisfied the fire god, and thus the fire god gave him one weapon. Indra was angry when the fire was set in the Khandava forest, and thus Indra, assisted by all the other demigods, began fighting with Arjuna for his great challenge. They were defeated by Arjuna. Whoa! And Indradeva returned to his heavenly kingdom. Arjuna also promised all protection, and the latter presented him one valuable conch shell, celebrated as the Devadatta. And the latter presented him one valuable conch shell, celebrated as the Devadatta. Similarly, he received many other valuable weapons from Indradeva when he was satisfied to see his chivalry. So, just a little side note, the reason that Arjuna was so powerful and was able to fight even the demigods headed by Indra and defeat them all was because he is actually an eternal associate of Krishna. And this evidence is given there in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asked Krishna, "How can I accept that you spoke this Bhagavad Gita to Vivaswan many millions of years ago when you're my cousin, I'm your peer. How can I accept this? And then Arjuna explained, you were there also, but you can't remember. I can. So this is the difference. The Lord never changes his body, but even his eternal associates, when they come to the material world to join him, they change their bodies. They don't come in the same body. So therefore, Arjuna couldn't remember, but he was there, and he's always there wherever Krishna goes, in all the universes. Okay, so that explains how powerful and why Arjuna is that powerful. When Maharaj Yudhishthira was disappointed in defeating the king of Magadha, Jarasandha, it was Arjuna only who gave King Yudhishthira all kinds of assurances, and thus Arjuna, Bhima, and Lord Krishna started for Magadha to kill Jarasandha. When he went out to bring all the other kings of the world under the subjection of the Pandavas, as was usual after the coronation of every emperor, he conquered the country named Kalinda and brought in subjugation King Bhagatata. Then he traveled through countries like Antagiri, Ulukpur, and Modapur, and brought under subjugation all the rulers. Sometimes he underwent severe types of penances, and later on he was rewarded by Indradeva. Lord Shiva also wanted to try the strength of Arjuna, and in the form of an aborigine, Lord Shiva met him. There was a great fight between the two, and at last Lord Shiva was satisfied with him and disclosed his identity. Arjuna prayed to the Lord in all humbleness, and the Lord, being pleased with him, presented him with the Pashupata weapon. He acquired many other important weapons from different demigods. He was Ramaraja, Pashastra from Varuna, and Antardana Astra from Kuvera, the treasurer of the heavenly kingdom. Indra wanted to come to the heavenly kingdom, and Indra wanted him to come to the heavenly kingdom, the Indraloka planet beyond the moon planet. In that planet, he was cordially received by the local resident of Indradev. When he met Indradeva, who not only presented him with his Vajra weapon, but also taught him the military and musical science as used in the heavenly planet. In one sense, Indra is the real father of Arjuna, and therefore indirectly he wanted to entertain Arjuna with the famous society girl of heaven, Urvashi, the celebrated beauty. The society of girls of heaven are lusty, and Urvashi was very eager to contact Arjuna, the strongest human being. She met him in his room and expressed her desires, but Arjuna sustained his before Urvashi, addressing her as mother of the Kuru dynasty, and placing her in the category of his mothers, Kunti, Madri, and Shachidevi, wife of Indradeva. Disappointed, Urvashi cursed Arjuna and left. In the heavenly planet, he also met the great celebrated ascetic Lomasa and prayed to him for the protection of Maharaj Yudhishthira. When his inimical cousin Duryodhana was under the clutches of the Gandharvas, he wanted to save him and requested the Gandharvas to release Duryodhana, and thus he fought with them and got Duryodhana released. When all the Pandavas lived incognito, he presented himself in the court of King Virata as a eunuch and was employed as the musical teacher of Uttara, his future daughter-in-law, and was known in the Virata court as the Brihanala. It was quite a character, eh? It's very interesting how Arjuna was willing to save the life of Duryodhana, even though Duryodhana, his whole life practically, or his youthful life, had intrigued to try to kill him. This is the difference in character, between a pure devotee or an eternal associate of Krishna and just an ordinary person. Okay. As Brihanala, he fought on behalf of Uttara, the son of King Virata. His secret weapons were safely kept in the custody of a somi tree, and he ordered Uttara to get them back, undisclosed to Uttara. Dronacharya was informed of Arjuna's presence in the fight of the Kurus and the Viratas. Later, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna killed many great generals like Karna and others. After the battle of Kurukshetra, he punished Ashwatthama, who had killed all the 5 sons of Draupadi. Then all the brothers went to Bhishma Dev. It is due to Arjuna only that the great philosophical discourses of the Bhagavad Gita were again spoken by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. His wonderful acts on the battlefield of Kurukshetra are vividly described in the Mahabharata. Arjuna was defeated, however, by his son Prabhuvahana at Manipur and fell unconscious when Ulupi saved him. After the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the message was brought by Arjuna to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Again, Arjuna visited Dwarka, and all the widow wives of Lord Krishna lamented before him. He took them all in the presence of Vasudeva and pacified all of them. Later on, when Vasudeva passed away, he performed his funeral, taking all the wives of Krishna to Indraprastha. He was attacked on the way, and he could not protect. At last, advised by Vyasadeva, all the brothers began their Mahaprasthana. On the way, at the request of his brother, he gave up all important weapons as useless, and he dropped them all in the water. Text 22. By the way, in each one of those events, there are chapters and chapters to describe the details of them in the Mahabharata. This child, now again, the verses are talking about Maharaj Pariksit. This child will be as strong as a lion, and as worthy as a shelter, and as worthy a shelter as the Himalaya mountains. He will be forbearing like the earth, and as tolerant as parents. Purport. One is compared to the lion enemy. One should be a lamb at home and a lion in the chase. Fails in the chase of an animal. Similarly, the head of the state should never fail in chasing an enemy. The Himalayan mountains are famous for all riches, innumerable caves to live in, numberless trees of good fruits to eat, good springs to drink water from, and profuse drugs and minerals to cure diseases. Any man who is not materially prosperous can take shelter of these great mountains, and he will be provided with everything required. Both the materialist and the spiritualist can take advantage of the great shelter of the Himalayas. On the surface of the earth, there are so many disturbances caused by the inhabitants. In the modern age, the people have begun to detonate atomic weapons on the surface of the earth, and still the earth is forbearing to the inhabitants, like a mother who excuses a little child. Parents are always tolerant to children of all types of mischievous acts. An ideal king may be possessed of all these good qualities, and the child Pariksit is foretold to have all these qualities in perfection. Text 23. This child will be like his grandfather Yudhishthira, or Brahma, in equanimity of mind. He will be munificent like the Lord of the Kailasa hill, Shiva. He will be the resort of everyone, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is even the shelter of the Goddess of Fortune. Purport. Mental equanimity, like the grandfathers, refers to both Maharaj Yudhishthira and Brahma, the grandfather of all living beings. According to Sridhar Swami, the grandfather referred to is Brahma, but according to Vishwanatha Chakrabarti, the grandfather is Maharaj Yudhishthira himself. But in both cases, the comparison is equally good, because both of them are recognized representatives of the Supreme Lord, and thus both of them have to maintain mental equanimity, being engaged in welfare work for the living being. Any responsible executive agent at the top of administration has to tolerate different types of onslaughts from the very persons for whom he works. Memo to Trump. Brahmaji was criticized even by the gopis, the highest perfectional devotees of the Lord. The gopis were dissatisfied with the work of Brahmaji because Lord Brahma, as creator of this particular universe, created eyelids which obstructed their seeing Lord Krishna. They could not tolerate a moment's blinking of the eyes, for it kept them from seeing their beloved Lord Krishna. So what to speak of others who were naturally very critical of every action of a responsible man? Similarly, Maharaj Yudhishthira had to cross over many difficult situations created by his enemies, and he proved to be the most perfect maintainer of mental equanimity in all critical circumstances. Therefore, the example of both grandfathers for maintaining equanimity of mind is quite fitting. Lord Shiva is a demigod celebrated for awarding gifts to beggars. His name is therefore Ashutosha, or Vanatha, or the Lord of the common folk, who are mainly attached to him because of his munificent gifts, even without consideration of the after effects. Ravana was very attached to Lord Shiva, and by easily pleasing him, to challenge the authority of Lord Rama. Of course, Ravana was never helped by Lord Shiva when he fought with Rama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Lord. To Vrikasura, Lord Shiva awarded a benediction which was not only awkward, but also disturbing. Vrikasura became empowered by the grace of Lord Shiva to vanish anyone's head simply by touching it. Although this was awarded by Lord Shiva, the cunning fellow wanted to make an experiment of the power by touching the head of Lord Shiva. And the Lord Vishnu, by his illusory potency, asked Vrikasura to make an experiment with his own head. The fellow did it and was finished himself, and so the world was saved from all sorts of trouble by a cunning beggar of the demigods. The excellent point is that Lord Shiva never denies anyone any sort of gift. He is therefore the most generous, although sometimes some kind of mistake is made. Rama means the goddess of fortune, and her shelter is Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the maintainer of all living beings. There are innumerable living beings, not only on the surface of this planet, but also in all other hundreds of thousands of planets. All of them are provided with all necessities of life for the progressive march towards the end of self-realization. But on the path of sense gratification, they are put into difficulty by the agency of Maya, the illusory energy, and so travel the path of a false plan of economic development. Such economic development is never successful because it is illusory. These men are always after the mercy of the illusory goddess of fortune, but they do not know that the goddess of fortune can live only under the protection of Vishnu. Without Vishnu, the goddess of fortune is an illusion. We should therefore seek the protection of Vishnu instead of directly seeking the protection of the goddess of fortune. Only Vishnu and the devotees of Vishnu can give protection to all. And because Maharaj Pariksit was himself protected by Vishnu, it was quite possible for him to live under his rule. Text 24. This child will be almost as good as Lord Sri Krishna by following in his footsteps. In magnanimity, he will become as great as King Rantideva, and in religion, he will be like Maharaj Yayati. Purport. The last instruction of Lord Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is that one should of the Lord alone. Less intelligent person but one who is actually intelligent catches up this sublime instruction and is immensely benefited. Foolish people do not know that association is the cause of acquiring qualities. Association with fire makes an object hot. Even in the material sense, the Supreme Personality of Godhead makes one qualified like the Lord. As we have discussed previously, one can achieve 78% of the godly qualities of the Lord's by the Lord's intimate association. To follow the instructions of the Lord is to associate with the Lord. The Lord is not a material object whose presence one has to feel for such association. The Lord is present everywhere and at all times. It is quite possible to have his association simply by following his instructions, because the Lord and his instructions, and because the Lord and his instruction, and the Lord and his name, fame, being absolute knowledge. Associated with the Lord even from the womb of his mother up to the last day of his valuable life, and thus he acquired all the essential good qualities of the Lord in all perfection. Rantideva, an ancient period referred to by Narada Muni while instructing Sanjaya, as mentioned in the Mahabharata, Drona Parva 67. Hospitality and distribution of foodstuff. Even Lord Sri Krishna praised his acts of charity and hospitality. He was blessed by the great Vashishta Muni for supplying him cold water, and thus he achieved the heavenly planet. He used to supply fruits, roots, and leaves to the rishis, and thus he was blessed by them with fulfillment of his desires. Although a Kshatriya by birth, he never ate flesh in his life. He was especially hospitable to Vashishta Muni, and by his blessings only, he attained the higher planetary residence. He is one of those pious kings whose names are remembered in the morning and evening. Yayati, the great emperor of the world, and the original forefather of all the great nations of the world who belong to the Aryan and Indo-European stock. He is the son of Maharaj Nahusha, and he became the emperor of the world due to his elder brothers becoming a great and liberated saintly mystic. He ruled over the world for several thousands of years and performed many sacrifices and pious activities recorded in history, although his early youth was very lustful and full of romantic stories. He fell in love with Devayani, the most beloved daughter of Shukracharya. Devayani wished to marry him, but at first he refused to accept her because of her being a daughter of a Brahmana. According to Shastras, a Brahmana could marry a daughter of a Kshatriya, but a Kshatriya could not marry the daughter of a Brahmana. They were very much cautious about Varna Sankara population in the world. Shukracharya amended this law of forbidden marriage and induced Emperor Yayati to accept Devayani, named Sharmishta, who with her friend Devayani. Shukracharya forbade Emperor Yayati to call Sharmishta into his bedroom, but Yayati could not strictly follow his instruction. He secretly married Sharmishta and also begot sons by her. When this was known by Devayani, she went to her father and lodged a complaint. Yayati was very much attached to Devayani, and when he went to his father-in-law's place to call her, Shukracharya was angry with him and cursed him to become impotent. Yayati begged his father-in-law to withdraw his curse, but the sage asked Yayati to ask youthfulness from his sons and let them become old as the condition of his becoming potent. He had 5 sons, 2 from Devayani and 3 from Sharmishta. From his 5 sons, namely 1 Yadu, 2 Turvasu, 3 Druyu, 4 Anu, and 5 Puru. 5 famous dynasties, namely the Yadu dynasty, the Yavana Turk dynasty, 3 the Bhoja dynasty, 4 the Mlecha dynasty, Greek, and 5 the Paurava dynasty, all emanated to spread all over the world. He reached the heavenly planets by dint of his pious acts, but he fell down from there because of his self-advertisement and criticizing other great souls. After his fall, his daughter and grandson bestowed upon him their accumulated virtues, and by the help of his grandson and friend Shibi, he was again promoted to the heavenly kingdom, becoming one of the assembly members of Yamaraja, with whom he is staying as a devotee. He performed more than 1,000 different sacrifices, gave in charity very liberally, and was a very influential king. His majestic power was felt all over the world. His youngest son agreed to award him his youthfulness when he was troubled with lustful desires, even for 1,000 years. Finally, he became detached from worldly life and returned the youthfulness again to his son Puru. He wanted to hand over the kingdom to Puru, but his noblemen and the subjects did not agree. But when he explained to his subjects the greatness of Puru, they agreed to accept Puru as the king, and thus Emperor Yayati retired from family life and left home for the forest. Nice?
What?
Huh?
No, just
Fixing the book.
fixing it.
Text 25. So we learn from all these stories about all these personalities what real human beings are like. You know, they have faults, they do this, they do that, but at the end of the day, what's the word? Detached. Because even the great kings, at the end of their life, they knew the goal of life was to attain self-realization. So they would give up their kingdom, their family members and everything, and go to the forest and do austerities, fear austerities for self-realization. Text 25. And if you're attentive, you'll hear that all kinds of personalities are given in these little historical vignettes of all these personalities. Women, men, sages, kings, you know, all kinds of people. Text 25. This child will be like Bali Maharaja in patience, a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna, like Prahlad Maharaj, a performer of many Ashwamedha horse sacrifices, and a follower of the old and experienced men. Purport. Bali Maharaja, one of the 12 authorities in the devotional service of the Lord. Bali Maharaja is a great authority in devotional service because he sacrificed everything to please the Lord and relinquished the connection of his so-called spiritual master who obstructed him on the path of risking everything for the service of your Lord. The highest perfection of religious life is to attain to the stage of unqualified devotional service of the Lord without any cause or without being obstructed by any kind of worldly obligation. Bali Maharaja was determined to give up everything for the satisfaction of the Lord, and he did not care for any obstruction whatsoever. He is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaja, another authority. Bali Maharaja, in the history of his dealings with Vishnu Vamanadeva, are described in the 8th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapters 10 through 23. Prahlad Maharaj, a perfected devotee of Father Hiranyakashipu, chastised him severely when he was only 5 years old for his becoming an unholy devotee of the Lord. He was the first son of Hiranyakashipu, and his mother's name was Kayadu. Prahlad Maharaj was an authority in the devotional service of the Lord because he had his father killed by Lord Nrsingadeva, setting the example that even a father should be removed from the path of devotional service, if such a father happens to be an obstacle. He had 4 sons, and the eldest son, Virochana, is the father of Bali Maharaja, mentioned above. The history of Prahlad Maharaja's activities is described in the 7th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Text 26. This child will be the father of kings, who will be like sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the chastiser of the upstarts and the quarrelsome. Purport. The wisest man in the world is a devotee of the Lord. The sages are called wise men, and there are different types of wise men for different branches of knowledge. Unless, therefore, the king or the head of the state is the wisest man, he cannot control all types of wise men in the state. Hold your tongue. In the line of royal succession, all the kings, without exception, were the wisest men of their times. And so it is foretold about Maharaj Pariksit and his son, Maharaj Janamejaya, who was yet to be born. Such wise kings can become chastisers of upstarts and uprooters. As will be clear in the chapters ahead, Maharaj Pariksit wanted to kill the personified Kali, who was attempting to kill a cow, the emblem of peace and religion. The symptoms of Kali are 1. Wine, 2. Women, 3. Gambling, and 4. Slaughterhouses. Wise rulers of the states should take lessons from Maharaj Pariksit in how to maintain peace and morality by subduing the upstarts and quarrelsome people who indulge in wine, illicit connection with women, gambling, and meat eating, supplied by regularly maintained slaughterhouses. In this age of Kali, regular license is issued for maintaining all of these different departments of quarrelsome people. So how can they expect peace and morality in the state? The state fathers, therefore, must follow the principles of becoming wiser by devotees to the Lord. Must follow the principles of becoming wiser by devotion to the Lord, by chastising the breaker of discipline, and by uprooting the symptoms of quarrel, as mentioned above. If we want dry fuel, blazing fire and moist fuel go ill together. Peace and morality can prosper only by the principles of Maharaj Pariksit and his followers. Text 27. After hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by the son of a Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender under the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. Purport. Material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together. Material attachment means ignorance of transcendental happiness under the shelter of the Lord. Devotional service to the Lord while existing in the material world is a way to practice one's transcendental relation with the Lord, and when it is matured, one gets completely free from all material attachment back to Godhead. Maharaj Pariksit, being especially attached to the Lord from the beginning of his body in the womb of his mother, was continuously under the shelter of the Lord. And the so-called warning of his death within 7 days from the date of the curse of the Brahmana's son was a boon to himself to go back home, back to Godhead. Since he was always protected by the Lord, he could have avoided the effect of sin, but he did not take such undue advantage for nothing. Rather, bargain. For 7 days, continuously, he heard Srimad-Bhagavatam from the right source, and thus he got shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord by that opportunity. And we will stop here. Hare Krishna. Following the order of my doctors and friends and well-wishers. Also, we have to get up even tomorrow. Anyway, so, wonderful, wonderful. We heard about so many exalted personalities. And the fact is that if we're in pure consciousness and we hear the sound describing these personalities, we can associate with them. And that's one of the major, major inspirations we should have to continually and repeatedly hear the Bhagavatam. Because even things that we can't get the first time, the second time, the third time, will gradually become awakened in us and revealed to us by repeated hearing sincerely. And what happens is by the process of sangha, by the process of association, things rub off on you. You know, who you associate with. There used to be a saying, you can know the quality of a man by the association he keeps. You know? So, if we keep association with the Srimad-Bhagavatam, then we will develop godly qualities. And according to our own stature, our own situation in life, be able to follow in the footsteps of personalities in the Bhagavatam who are in a similar situation to us. That is self-realization, the search for self-realization. How to live in this world happily despite all the chaos. And there is chaos. We read about so many chaotic situations. But at the end, because they're all exalted souls, it comes out right at the end. Okay. Reflections. We've got 13 minutes.
What was the Vajra weapon?
Oh. What was the name of it again?
Vajra weapon? Isn't
Vajra.
Isn't that the same thing the Buddhists use, that little Vajra?
No. It's Vajra.
Okay.
V-A-J-R-A. It was given to him by Indra, and it is a thunderbolt.
Ah, okay.
It's a weapon that has the power of a thunderbolt. Yes, sir.
Maharaj, today we read, I think, 20th or 21st verse that Arjuna, when describing about Arjuna, he had 4 wives, including Draupadi.
Yes.
And he had 1 son from each.
Yes.
And 2 of them, I think they said, still have the lineage in King royal family of Manipur.
Yes.
And some
Nagaland.
Nagaland, okay. But yesterday when we were reading about why Lord protected Maharaj Pariksit in the womb, the point was mentioned that because he was the only descendant left after the war of Mahabharata.
In order to be the descendant, you can't just be having been begotten by the one person, you have to be begotten by the right woman also. So the descendants of these other sons were not heirs to the throne. They were conceived in different ways at different times, but they weren't of the lineage to be eligible to be heirs to the throne. So therefore it says that Pariksit was the only heir to the throne. Yes, Sarva.
In verse 21, second paragraph,
Verse 21, in the second paragraph.
I just wanted to see if you could check what you have, because it seemed like it was different from the book that you read.
Yeah. I have to go there. Okay, 21. You will find differences, Sarva. That's not a mistake necessarily,
Yeah.
because mistakes are being corrected. And the editors are trying to make the books as close to what Srila Prabhupada first gave us as possible. Okay. I don't know if I can answer your question, but I'm going to try. Keep track of the verse we're on now for me. Okay? Thank you. 21. Okay. 21 purport. Second paragraph.
Under Arjuna.
Under Arjuna. And what do you say? What does it say that's different?
Well, there's a great deal of the Bhagavad Gita here. The Kshatriya son of Maharaj Pandit. How is something different than Kshatriya son of Pandit?
Chetaja. Chetaja means son of king. Son of a Kshatriya. Chetaja means the son of a Kshatriya. It's the same thing. It gives it's the original word. Chetaja is the original word. It's the original Sanskrit that was given in this section. And the mistake was to translate it or to say Kshatriya instead of Chetaja. Chetaja is the son of a Kshatriya, or son of a king.
Okay. It was just different, some of them are different wording, that was some of them.
It's the same. Same thing. And there's another meaning of it also. And that is because there's a meaning of it, and I don't remember exactly what this is, but it's something has to do with the fact that Pandu died and left the sons, without a father. So the word Kshatriya doesn't fulfill all the meanings of the word, or the meaning of the verse, or of the sentence. Okay?
I was confused because...
Say that again?
The Gita says Kshetra is the knower of the field. It must be a different spelling.
It's a different spelling. This is Chetaja. It's Chetagya. Chetagya is different.
Okay.
Okay?
I was reading the first chapter of first canto, and the 6th or 7th verse it was said like there was a purport section listening and explaining Srimad-Bhagavatam text.
I'm taking that very literally, by the way, in case you didn't notice.
So like us reading at home is not that effective.
No, read out loud to yourself. Then it's more effective. If you read out loud, that means you're reading to someone, reading to yourself. And you hear. The point is that you hear, and the knowledge is transmitted through the ear. Are we having problems, Mother? Go ahead.
What is explaining mean? Listening and explaining is considered better than reading the...
Yes, because you're hearing, and then you're explaining, and that Shravana, Kirtana, Vishnu, Smarana, and then you explain kirtanam, then you can smaranam, remember things. That's how you can remember things, because realization means that during your day you can remember, behave, what's right, what's wrong, what you learned. Apply, application. So that's another word for realization. And in that purport, if I remember right, it says this is the only way to realize. In another part of the purport, it says hearing and explaining is the only way to realize.
But you could do that in your mind.
Yes, but it's not with your own mind and it's not with your own self, because as we said before, you're actually associating with these great authorities in the Bhagavatam.
But physically, I'm in my bed reading the Bhagavatam, and then I'm saying, okay, it means this, and I'm talking out loud to myself, and I'm trying to realize what's going on
Yeah.
here. That's
Yeah, yeah. But then when you explain it to someone else, then it comes to another level.
you know, when you're able to explain it back, you start to understand it better.
Exactly. And that's what it means. And that's exactly what it means. It's called learning by teaching. Learning by explaining, same thing.
One online
Ooh.
class question. Did I say that correctly? It's your doctor, I think. He says, in quote, there is a need of such vipras in the social structure, and it is the duty of the state to maintain them comfortably, as designed in the Vedic procedure. Such expert vipras, am I saying this correctly?
Yes. So far, so good.
Being sufficiently paid by the state, could give free service to the people in general, and thus this department of Vedic knowledge could be available for all. 1:12:29. He asked, was this limited to the earlier yugas, or even in the Kali Yuga it's recommended?
It's recommended, but it's hard to apply in the Kali Yuga. Religious principles were being followed more strictly. And now all the different legs of, sometimes it's interpreted by devotees that in the Satya Yuga there were 4 legs, and in the Treta Yuga there were 3 legs, and in the Dwapara Yuga there was 2 legs, and in the Kali Yuga there's only 1 leg. That's truthfulness. But the fact is that each one of those legs, truthfulness, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness, each one of them go down in each of the ages. So therefore, in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, it says, Manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya uparita, that in Kali Yuga, the population in general are less qualified. They're short-lived. They don't have time or the inclination or the, what's the word? Chutzpah is another word. Spiritual vigor, all the qualities that are described in the Gita, in the list at the beginning of the 16th chapter and in the 13th chapter in verses 8 to 12. So it's very difficult for the Kali Yuga souls to revitalize the system of Vedic culture, in the same degree, in the same ways. And that statement is made many times by Srila Prabhupada in his purports. But Prabhupada also said we should make the best use of a bad bargain, and we should, as much as possible, follow what we can. We can't be perfect, we can't follow everything exactly perfectly, as history has shown. But we can improve. We can definitely improve in these qualities. And the first things first, the 4 regulated principles. If we actually follow the 4 regulated principles strictly throughout our lives, which is very difficult to do, there haven't been many devotees who've been able to do it perfectly throughout their whole lives. But whenever we realize how important it is and commit ourselves to it and follow, from that time on, if we follow for the rest of our lives, then we develop quality. But to organize the human society in such a way that the state will, support the brahmanas, as has been hinted at, not hinted at, but said in the question. I mean, I have an example in front of me right now. You see this? I'm 72 years old, and I've got no insurance. I haven't had a gainful employment for 50 years. So my angel, guardian angel, Hari Balab, Dr. Pokala, when I went to the hospital to see what was wrong and what had to be done, he made I guess a plea to the administrators of the hospital that they should treat me as charity. They should write off the costs because I'm a monk and I don't have any source of income. And they did it. So what that means is that the principle is there, you know. It's not everywhere. It's not being done in a systematic way everywhere. But even in America, where healthcare is very, very expensive and very hard to get and very discriminatory, the hospitals still have a budget. Of course, they'll make money from it. Somehow or other, they write it off, and then they get less taxes, and they make more money. Somehow or other, they'll make more profit from it. But still, one of the things that they do is to give charity to people who don't have, you know, incomes, or monks, or as you said in your question, Vipra, learned Vipras. And today and yesterday, they kept calling me and asking me questions, you know. And I gave my Social Security number to show them that I didn't have any income going into it for 50 years. Therefore, I can't be eligible for so-called Medicare because I didn't put anything into the system. And it's not that you get it for free, you know. I mean, there's a wave in this country towards these kinds of things. More and more people are starting to say, hey, you know, every developed country in the world has some sort of universal health care for the citizens, except America is the only one that doesn't. So let's see what happens in the future. Let's see. I don't think that I probably answered your question perfectly, but we should become learned reapers anyway, even if we're not going to be supported by the state. Although it would be much better if they did. So let's see what's going to happen. You know, according to Shastra, the Krishna consciousness movement will gradually increase its influence until it becomes the peak of influence 5,000 years from now. So just think, 5,000 years. That's a lot of years. And a lot of things can happen, especially as fast as things are changing now. So maybe, Prabhupada said it's possible, but we have to become serious. We have to become serious first. The world won't be given to us on a silver platter. We have to earn it. And if you say, well, then ISKCON's not like this, that's life. And there are elevated, exalted persons in this movement, and it's the nature of human society that they smoking ideal men, as you were saying in your question. So let us see, 5,000 years, stick around. And then we can see what's going to happen. Kali Yuga gives us a lot of disadvantages, but it also in the end will give us advantages. And how that's going to happen, I don't think any one of us knows exactly. But in the 12th canto, there's some pretty heavy predictions about what's going to happen after Lord Chaitanya's golden age finishes. So 5,000 years it's going to get better, then 5,000 years it's going to get worse until the Kali Yuga fully takes hold. And then there will be no chance of that kind of organization in human society. And now, as much as I hate to do this and hate to say it, I'm 5 minutes over. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin in 2 minutes. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for your questions. And I hope that through this process of hearing the Bhagavatam and discussing it, we will all become enriched in spiritual knowledge and spiritual happiness, so that we can tolerate the onslaughts of Kali Yuga and still stay happy and spread that happiness to others. Gaur Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Maharaj ki jai. Hare Hare Bol.